Hey people, it is Friday, April the 25th. The time is 4:42 in the afternoon. It's about 15 degrees outside, but I'm currently inside Coxwell subway station here on the far east end of Toronto. Just rode line 2 from Sherbourne station. But I'm going to be transferring onto a bus and taking a ride north up Coxwell Avenue. To check out a neat little neighborhood called Old East York Village. It's a little retail strip along the northern end of Coxwell Avenue in East York, obviously. I think the buses are pretty frequent here. Hopefully I won't have to wait too long to hop on the bus I want. This is Coxwell to Queen. I want the Coxwell going north, not south. So I think the one I want will be coming in 5 minutes. Since I got some time to kill, rather than just wander around the bus bays here for the next 5 minutes, maybe I'll pause the video and I will resume once I see my bus. So I'll be back in a flash. All right, I'm back and I'm on the bus. And it's a complete and utter shit show on this bus. It's jam-packed, everyone is angry, people are yelling, people are screaming, people are cursing at the bus driver. The back door wouldn't open, people were freaking out. There was another bus at the station that couldn't move, so everyone who was supposed to get on that bus all decided to get on this bus instead. And then the other bus started moving, and everyone that got on this bus wanted to get off and get back on the other bus, but it was too late. So they were all angry. And I wasn't able to find a seat. I had to wait a few stops until luckily someone got off right where I was standing, and I was able to snag this window seat. Trying not to hit the camera lens on the window. The window is always closer than it appears. You can see it's like jammed on here. Just a bunch of miserable, fed up looking people basically on the bus right now.
Next stop, Plains Road.
That's my stop. So here's Old East York Village from the bus point of view.
Hello? Papi, ¿por qué no me contesta la primera que le digo? Siempre les tengo que repetir 2 veces.
You have to kind of push on the door with a little bit of force for it to open. And a bit earlier, there was a lady who was wanting to get off, and she wasn't pushing hard enough on the door, and so it wasn't opening, and the bus started moving again, and then she started yelling, and everyone started yelling, and the bus driver just ignored it and just kept on driving to the next stop. And before that, there was more yelling about people wanting to get off the bus to get back on the other bus that wouldn't move. It was just a scene of chaos and misery on the TTC. But we made it here to Old East York Village. This is kind of like the northern end of Coxwell. There's O'Connor Drive right over there. So I recently did a video walking through Pape Village, showing some of these soon-to-be destroyed buildings along Pape Avenue due to the new subway line running through there. And after that, I walked over to Donlands Avenue and showed the little retail strip on Donlands. And I mentioned that there was another one a bit further to the east, and this is the one I was talking about here on Coxwell. There's even a Mr. Sub here. When you look at that, I don't see too many of those around anymore. And this also has the angled street parking, as did the retail strip on Donlands Avenue. But unlike the Donlands retail strip, this has shops on both sides of the street, not just one. Has a definite old school vibe to it. I didn't even know this was here until a few years ago when I just sort of stumbled upon it. Because most of Coxwell, south of this little retail area, is residential for a very long way. It isn't until you get down to near Gerrard Street that it becomes commercial again for a few blocks. Not sure what that car was honking about just a moment ago. This is a very wide and busy 4-lane road here, though. Takes a bit of the neighborhood ambiance away. Think of all the former boroughs outside of the city of Toronto proper, the old city of Toronto. I think East York might have most of these neat little neighborhood commercial strips, sort of a bit off the beaten path, you know. York also has quite a few, the old borough of York, because they're the oldest ones, other than the old city of Toronto, with the most pre-war development. That big LCBO store is a bit out of place, though. I wonder if there's some older storefronts along that space before they put that LCBO in. Hopefully not. Maybe it was just a parking lot or something. Nice old school family restaurant. Lickety Split. I remember this from one of my previous walks through here. It's nice to see these businesses are still going. Same with Knuckles Sandwich across the street. But just a couple of blocks of shops, and that's pretty much it for Old East York Village. I think there's a sign across the street sort of welcoming you into the area. And off in the distance you can make out some of the apartment towers in Thorncliffe Park and beyond, all the way up to Flemington Park. You can see some buildings off in the distance there. All right, I'm going to cross the street. Geez, this sign needs a bit of a refresher here. It's all dirty and it's been graffitied. But Old East York Village. Rediscover neighborhood shopping. Toronto has so many of these neat little commercial areas throughout its neighborhoods. Let's It's one of the best things about the city. Unfortunately, in some other cities across North America, a lot of those old commercial strips have been blighted or redeveloped, or just deteriorated and were demolished. Luckily, Toronto escaped most of that. So we're just going to walk south down Coxwell Avenue. Yeah, that bus ride was something out of a transit rider's nightmare. So that was the bus that I was on, the 70 O'Connor. Not the actual bus, but the route. The East York Deli. So if you walk along Cosburn Avenue here, heading west, you'll eventually past Donlands and then Pape Avenue a bit further west than that. And you'll eventually hit Broadview Avenue. You can make out the one at Yonge and Bloor under construction all the way from here. See the crane on top of the very tall, skinny building. That's very far away. It's going to be one of those buildings in the city that you can see from all over the place. It used to be just the CN Tower, really, and maybe First Canadian Place and Scotia Plaza in the financial district that you could see from all over the city, but now there's a whole bunch more very tall towers sort of punctuating the vistas as you look from vast distances. Yes, I can talk if I try. So this is what I thought O'Connor Drive, or I should say Coxwell Avenue. Why did I say O'Connor Drive? I have no idea. This is why I thought Coxwell Avenue didn't really have much of anything going up this way, because most of it does look like this. So that's why I was surprised to find that little retail stretch right at its northern end. I think there's a hospital up ahead though, Michael Garron Hospital, to at least break up this residential monotony a little bit. Not that these houses aren't attractive, you know, they're the East York style bungalows for the most part. A lot of these popped up in the immediate post-war era. I'm not sure when that retail stretch was built up though. I didn't see dates on the buildings. Because to be honest, after World War II, they didn't really build a lot of those old street fronting retail streets anymore. Things shifted over to a different style of urban design. Memorial Gardens Park. There's the East York Civic Center over there. All these old centers and libraries, recreation centers, they all still retain the old borough names. You'll still find things, East York this, North York that, Scarborough this, Etobicoke that. I just spotted the CN Tower way far away between the trees. Will it show up on camera? I don't know. I can see it. Also First Canadian Place and Scotia Plaza. Something new coming to the street. Here's the hospital. That bus is a lot less empty. Just of course I had the perfect timing to arrive at the station just as that other bus was having difficulties. And everyone decided to crowd onto the bus I wanted. Of course it all had to work out just that way as I was arriving. I'm just lucky like that, I guess. Kind of a neat design, Art Deco. This hospital is a bit far flung. I don't really get a look at it very often. What's with the broken window? What are they doing here at this old wing of the hospital? Hopefully they're not going to be demolishing it or anything like that. This is by far the nicest looking part of the building, in my opinion. I'll have to look into what exactly is being done here. Because just a broken window like that looks a bit off-putting, right? Unless someone decided to throw a rock through the window for some reason. Here's a newer looking wing. Looks brand new. Still has the construction hoarding here. You can see what this overall project is going to look like here. Just a major transformation of the hospital. It's a nice old school corner drugstore. You can probably tell I really like old school looking things. Let's look at that new edition. I'll be bummed if they end up tearing down that older wing though. That should be preserved. Hopefully that's not the case at all. Some bigger homes here. See, the housing is quite dense still in this part of the city. Hardly any space between the homes. They are fully detached though, for the most part. Once you get a bit closer to the heart of the city, you find more and more semi-detached houses or row houses will start to appear. You don't see too much of that this far away from downtown though. But these two are touching one another, so does that count as... But there is a space also. There's a space between them, but the roofs are still touching one another. That's kind of weird. I think my memory card is very close to maxing out here. I think I just have a few minutes left, so before I just get cut off in the middle of a sentence or something, maybe I'll start to wrap up this walk. It might end up being a tad shorter than the usual 30 minutes or more, but the rest of Coxwell is just more of the same from this point on until you get down to Gerrard, which is a long way down. So I hope you enjoyed this look at Old East York Village, but starting off with a thankfully short bus ride from hell, where I transferred from the subway to the bus at Coxwell Station. And then we took a look at the little retail strip at the northern end of Coxwell Avenue, and just continued on south to check out some of the rest of the street. So like, share, subscribe, If you haven't already done so, hit that notification bell. That way you won't miss any of my videos. And if you'd like to support the channel, there are links in the description where you can do so via PayPal, as well as via my merch store. You can also support the channel by becoming a channel member, or by sending a super thanks if you prefer. And you can find me on Instagram also under K Continuum. So thanks for watching, and thanks to all the channel members. And be sure to keep checking back, because, as always, I will continue.